Look, if you're willing to do it, come to Australia. We'll pay for the flight and everything. We'll test 3 drivers, and whoever of the 3 is the fastest will be the one racing with us. So my name is Cedric Sbirrazzouli. I was born and raised in Monaco, and I still currently live in Monaco. Australia in Bathurst. I've always wanted to race there. It was always a dream of mine to do that race. And back in 2019, when I finished 3rd in the Lamborghini World Final. And then after the World Final, I got a call from an Australian team saying that they were looking for an extra driver for Bathurst 12 hours with a Mark car, so an Australian car, which is basically a Ford Mustang. Actually very similar to a GT3 car in terms of lap times. And they said, look, if you're willing to do it, come to Australia. We'll pay for the flight and everything. We'll test 3 drivers, and whoever of the 3 is the fastest will be the one racing with us. I spoke with a lot of other drivers, and they were all like, look, when you get to Bathurst, the first session you will feel like you're flying, and you're actually like 8 seconds off the pace or 10 seconds off the pace. I was like, okay, that's quite a bit. But then in the end, I was only 5 seconds of the pace in the first session. So I was like, okay, this is promising. And then I kept like shaving time off, and ended up like quite competitive in the end. But yeah, the first lap, you're just, it's everything you expect from what you've seen on onboards or video games or whatever, multiplied by 100. Like the elevation, the walls, some of those corners are extremely fast, and you have just a concrete wall next to you, which I think racing in America for 5 years kind of helped, because you're used to that with the American racetracks. So I think it would have been a bigger shock if I would have never raced in America and went from Europe to Bathurst. That would have been a big shock. The test went pretty well, because I ended up with the fastest time. The only thing in the last session, I had like a little touch with the wall, which is quite common in Bathurst, and slightly bent the suspension, but it was still, some damage that was, let's say, useless. So I was a bit afraid that would count and I wouldn't get the drive. And then I kept waiting, November, December, January, no calls. So I was like, okay, probably won't be doing Bathurst. But yeah, in the end, they called me and said, so you're going to send us your passport for the flights? And I was like, oh, so I got the drive. He said, yeah, we said the fastest. And I was like, yeah, but I thought the little crash would have made a difference. I said, no, don't worry about it. It's Bathurst. We know how it is. So we ended up going to Bathurst. We did the 12 hours with a Ford Mustang, which was really a blast. And all of a sudden, you're with all the official drivers from, Ferrari, Mercedes, Audi, all of them on track. And now it's like the main event. So it's a pretty... the first lap was quite interesting, quite challenging. I was kind of hoping that I would not do the first stint in the nights, because, have never raced there. Jumping in the car in the dark wouldn't have been the easiest thing. I would have done it if they would have asked, but in the end, they preferred to put the driver that had more experience in Bathurst, which was fair enough. But yeah, it was, like I said, every lap around Bathurst is just amazing. Like it's so fun to drive. It's never boring. It's everything you can expect from a race in Australia. Kangaroos on track, red flag because of kangaroos. The track is just insane. I think I didn't stop smiling for the entire first lap I did on that track. Fast, it's narrow, a lot of elevation. It was a crazy experience, and I really hope I get to do it again. As soon as that team get the car back on track, I really hope I can do it again. I did 2 double stints, which the second one was a nightmare, because that race was extremely hot. We had mandatory cool shirts, which I had never used before, and helmet blower. And so I had the cool shirt, but it didn't work. So it basically just made it warmer. and on top of that, they didn't plug the drinking system. And you know, the Ford Mustang has the front engine, so it gets really hot in there. It's probably one of the races where I suffered the most. The last part of my second stint was brutal. Like it was when I came out of the car, I was not in the best shape. But you know, as a race car driver, you just swallow it and you go through it, and you'll just recover after the race. But it was a tough one. All the mountain parts, so the uphill and the downhill, is very challenging. When you get to the last part of the uphill, we have all the very fast corners before the slow part of the track. That's really challenging because, you know, those corners, I think it's called the chase, if I remember well. It's challenging. Like I said, you have no room for mistake. Extremely fast. I remember one of the pro driver that was on the car with us, and the AM driver. The pro driver was always telling the AM driver, look, when you get close to the wall, there is pro close and there is AM close. Like the AM close is about half a meter, the pro close is risking the mirror. So yeah, it was an epic race. I really enjoyed it, and from the atmosphere of the race, even the car was actually very surprising. You know, I was not expecting the car to perform so well and to be actually so nice to drive. So they did a pretty solid job with the car as well. I can say that it was faster on the straight than the GT3s. Top speed at the very end was about, if I remember, it was 295 kilometers per hour or something like that. When usually GT3 is about 10 kph slower. So it was definitely a fast car. The downforce was obviously not as good as the GT3, so in the corners we're struggling a bit more, I would say, on the braking as well. But overall, consider like that car was turning, I think, 207s, and the GT3s are doing 203s. I'm talking about race pace. I think the car in qualifying could do a 205 or something like that. So, you know, you're talking about 2-3 seconds off from a GT3. So on a more than 2 minutes racetrack lap, it's not bad. It's not a bad gap. Seconds up.